Hello. Today we are going to be talking about the different areas of language and the different areas in which a speech pathologist might help somebody. Before we get started, we're just going to go over some definitions that are essential to understanding what exactly we will be talking about. The first thing that we're going to talk about is communication, and communication is the active process of exchanging information. This is affected by social behavior from each participant, and communication can involve different things like encoding, transmitting, and decoding the messages that are intended for you. The second thing that we will be going over is language, and language is what you use to communicate. This can be speech, gestures, signs, just anything that is used to communicate that intended message. And language is not always verbal. For example, writing would be a nonverbal form of language. And the last definition that we're going to talk about is speech. And speech is the verbal means of communicating a message. And this requires neuromuscular coordination, and speech consists of different sound combinations, voice quality, your intonation, so your tone of voice, and the rate, like how fast or slow you talk. And with these three are all interconnected. For example, you can't have speech without a language, and without language, you cannot have communication. So we're going to go a little deeper into language, and there are 5 components of language, and in speech pathology, you can have a disorder in 2 of the 5 components. It can be all 5, but usually there's just a problem in one of them. So the 5 components are syntax, morphology, phonology, semantics, and pragmatics. And these 5 components fall under 3 areas of form, content, and use. So the first area we're going to be talking about is form, and this includes the components of syntax, morphology, and phonology. So the first one we're going to talk about is syntax, and this is the rule system that governs the ordering of words in sentences. And so this deals with the word order, how the sentence is organized, the different types of words, and the relationships between words. And syntax decides which word combinations are acceptable and which ones are not. So, for example, if someone has a problem, a child has a problem in syntax, they might say things like, fight a girl's the and got, or the dog big went fast running. So what they should have said is, the girls got in a fight, or the big dog went running fast. So these are just when people mix up the different word orders. The next component of language is morphology, and these are rules that govern the structure at the word level. So just think grammar. So words contain smaller units called morphemes. So for example, the word dogs has 2 morphemes, one being dog, and then the second one is the suffix with the s, making it plural. So morphology allows the speaker to change the word meanings, and so they can change it by using a different verb tense, possession, number, like I said, dog and dogs. So that deals with morphology. And a child who has a problem with that might say things like, the group of girl went swim, or I told her I want to be a dance. And what they should have said is, the group of girls went swimming, or I told her I wanted to be a dancer. So that's just when they're using the wrong endings of words. The next area is phonology. And so these are rules that determine which sounds can appear together, how they're going to sound, and where they can appear together in a sentence. So this is based off a phoneme, which is the smallest unit of sound. So, for example, dog has 3 phonemes because it has 3 different sounds in it: d, ah, and g. So there's 3 phonemes in that. And these sounds are combined in a specific way in order to form words. A child who has a problem in this is replacing sounds with other ones that they shouldn't. So they might say something like, I dot sit at school today, or he won't do when mom tells him to det home, instead of saying I got sick at school today, or he won't go when mom tells him to get home. The next area we're going to talk about is content, and under this area, the component of language is called semantics. Semantics deals with the rules that govern the meaning of the words and the relationship between those units of meaning. Semantics helps speakers decide if something makes sense or if it's nonsense. So this is things like when you're working with synonyms, antonyms, or homophones. So basically, this is just, it's kind of like vocabulary, like knowing what the words mean. So, for example, a child who has trouble with semantics might say, I ate all of my veggies, I had apples and a hamburger and broccoli. At first, looking at this sentence, it doesn't seem like it'd be wrong, but if you look closely, the child is saying they ate all their veggies, but then they list hamburger and apples when only the broccoli is a vegetable. The next form, or the next area is use, and this deals with pragmatics, and this is the final one of the 5 components of language. This one is pretty common to see. Pragmatics is the social appropriate use of language. So kind of just acting appropriate in social settings, and these govern the manner of communication. So, for example, it's how to come in and leave a conversation, how to take turns, listening to others and not always having to be the one to talk, making relevant contributions to the conversation, so staying on topic and bringing appropriate things to the conversation. So an example of someone who has a problem with pragmatics may be Billy, and he talks in a very loud voice, doesn't matter where he's at, inside, outside, he's always talking very loud, he interrupts, and he brings up inappropriate topics. So a speech pathologist can work with any one of these different areas. A student can have a problem with 3 out of the 5, they can have a problem with 1 out of 5, it just differs on the child and what they are going to work on, and for each component, the speech pathologist will have a different method of how to help with them. So, for example, working on the R sound is going to be a lot different than trying to help a kid who isn't very good at turn taking. Thank you for watching, and I hope everyone learned something.